Welcome to Sorting Through Life with Colleen Waterston on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I am Colleen Waterston, and I am the host of this show and also the owner of Space by Space Organizing, which is really the sponsor of this show. And we dreamt up having this show as a way to be able to share what goes on inside of people's houses through professional organizing. So I am a professional organizer with Space by Space, a home organizing business here in the Twin Cities. I'm here today with Alicia, who is my right hand since almost day one of the business. And we have gone into dozens and dozens of homes across the Twin Cities. And also here today with Tiffany, who is so much more than a social media gal, marketing gal, business minded gal, but she's on our team and helps us to take the stories about what we do in people's homes and share them. And when Alicia and I first started talking about having a podcast or this radio show opportunity presented itself, we really wanted to normalize what people feel when we're in their homes and to talk about, so much more than just a pretty pantry or, a perfectly organized home, but the trends that we see and kind of the psychology behind some of our stuff. And so today's episode, I really want us to be able to talk about having a more intentional relationship with stuff. And what I hope is that when our clients hire us, by the end of our time with them, they have a more intentional relationship with their stuff, and that we have given them such a custom experience around sorting through their stuff that we're able to, it provides enormous value. We bring clients on and it feels like we do that for our clients, but for just anybody listening, I want to give some strategies and some support around how to deal with stuff and how to feel good about dealing with stuff and having a more intentional relationship with the stuff. So by the end of today, I hope that we kind of talk about knowing what you own before buying more, building systems in your house and in your life that support the way you actually live and the person that you actually are, not just your aspirational self, decluttering, and how that does not have to mean sending everything to a landfill. So we'll talk about some of our donations and reselling habits so that we can help people feel better about getting rid of things and actually recover some of the costs in many situations. So we'll talk about thinking beyond keeping or throwing away. There's so much more than just those two options. Should it stay or should it go? It could be, should it stay and how? But then if it goes, like where and how should it go? And ultimately, the goal is not an empty home. We are not minimalists here at Space by Space. We love stuff that serves us. We love the stuff that serves our clients. And so we want homes that have the right amount of useful, meaningful, and manageable belongings. So by the end of this, we hope that people not only feel in the company of many like-minded, like acting people. We all live in the same world where we have a lot of consumption. But I hope people feel not alone. And then I hope that when people go to declutter, we've given them some more creative ideas for where to donate, especially in the Twin Cities, some great resources around, where do you bring your stuff so that you can feel good about it, the things you no longer need. And I've heard about Facebook Marketplace. I've heard about, there's a lot of people think, well, I could sell that. That still has value. And sometimes things have good monetary value that make it worth your while to actually go into reselling. So we'll get there too. But I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany to kind of guide us today along the topic so that we can have this conversation.
Yeah, let's talk about consumer habits and easy access to stuff with, online shopping, fast shipping, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, how many times, Alicia, do we walk into a house and it's like so many boxes at the front door?
Yep.
Everybody has like 10 Amazon boxes sitting around.
Yeah. You can also kind of tell what clients are influenced by what, because sometimes you see kind of similar things that aren't being used in people's houses. And I'm like, okay, saw that you probably got that on Instagram.
I don't know how to launch a product on Instagram successfully. I'm not in the product launch business, but there's definitely a way to do it. All of a sudden, it seems like everybody owns that same thing. Like, I don't understand how Stanley became the, premier
Go-to
mug
water bottle.
to have, but it's like, I think that what we talk about the psychology of stuff. And I think, when you think about how we're being influenced, it's not just to buy and that we need these things, but it's like we need these to be cool. We need these so that our favorite color shines we every time we look at our water bottle, it represents who we are. There's so many things that we've been influenced that you see in people's houses. And, you know, I would say that becoming an organizer, I buy less and I buy secondhand more. Like, I'm so much more intentional over the last few
Mhm.
years of being in people's houses and being in people's purchases and being in people's frustration with themselves for the purchases,
Mhm.
that and knowing the value attached to some of these purchases.
Yep.
Stanleys, when they came out, were just a ridiculous amount of money to keep your water cold.
Mhm. Yeah.
But they survive a car fire or something,
Is
like
that it?
yeah, there's some sort of marketing was involved in that. Like you said, we've been
Yeah.
over-influenced.
Mhm.
I feel like if my car caught on fire, I think the last thing I would think is, did my water bottle make it?
That was my thought too, but,
You know? Like, I think I'd be like, what important documents were in there? Like, nobody's being marketed like a fire safe for your car, but yet our Stanley will survive.
Yeah. I think that's another thing too is like so many things are purposely marketed that like, oh, you need this product for this specific reason. And it's like, oh, maybe I do when it's not really a realistic situation.
There are so many drink powders and different and you can just see
protein and hydration are like two major
Yeah.
things. I'm like, wow, are we all just dehydrated
huge.
and protein deficient? Makes
It's
you think you are.
it's well, so that's what I think that, what we try to do. And I think so we have this process where we, sort and then we evaluate and then we put it back together. And during that evaluation, when everything is pulled out and sorted and you're able to see the excessive amounts,
Mhm.
that is the moment of intervention for our clients, where it's like we're standing looking out over all that you own in that space in your house, and so we'll take on the amount that we can sort within the space so that we can have that effective sort.
Mhm.
And Alicia and I think we were good at this from day one, but we've gotten better and better at knowing what we have capacity for to start and finish in a day, but also what a client has capacity for
Yeah.
from the exhaustion level of, because it's a reckoning with yourself. You are facing yourself when you face your stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's some people I call shovers. And these are people who the surfaces look amazing. The house often looks beautiful. I went to this one house. I'm like, does she think I'm a house photographer? Like, did she get this appointment wrong? Like, what does she need me for? It was gorgeous. And then you can't open a drawer. You can't or if you open a door, see what falls out.
Yep.
And it's the point, like, you could never put it all back in there the same because it's so shoved.
Mhm.
And it's like once air reaches it, it becomes 3 times the size of what it was when it was shoved.
Yep.
But for that, it's like we've been shoving these things away and we've just been getting something new. And often because things are inexpensive or, relatively inexpensive,
Mhm.
it's easier to just buy something than go through our whole closet to find the thing.
Yep.
And then I also find that going through the closet, people might get mad at themselves. There's a lot of um, buying habits that come when you go through things one by one that you're like, I can't believe I never wore that. Oh, that
Mhm.
doesn't even fit. And it still has the tag on it. So it's like when you go through things that one by one, it can be really hard to get through. So when we come in and we pull it all out, but that's like there are many of households that have 50 water bottles.
Yes. Half of them don't probably have matching lids.
Right. So we come in and it's, if we're going to belabor the water bottle point, we will go and through that, we put things with like so that we can really see what we have. And that's where a lot of times I see people like overbuying their favorites, or overbuying the things that they know they're going to use because it's like, I don't know what I have, but I know I like that.
Mhm.
And so, of course, if I just buy one more, I will use it.
Mhm.
But when a professional person that you hired to sort through your stuff pulls it all out and puts it together, it's like, you've got 20 of those.
Mhm.
And even though it's your favorite, it's going to take you 3 years to get through that, and it expires in a year.
Mhm.
So there's stuff like that that we're constantly. What do you think are some of the things that we see the most of?
Um, I would say a lot of times with food, people tend to buy more than they actually need. And I think it kind of comes down to they'll go to the store, see things that are probably on sale, like buy two, get one free or something, and not taking into consideration the space that they actually have at their home to keep it when they could not take advantage of the sale and end up probably spending more money and just get what they actually need.
Have you ever noticed also that sometimes things say like 2 for $4, but the unit cost is $2 if you get one?
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so it's also that, and I think I wish that we had, really algorithm driven influencers around demystifying some of these, influence these, like, I feel like there's such a science around marketing to us these days.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the algorithms make it that much easier.
Mhm.
All these companies, and I'm all for convenience and for life advancement and, getting to live in a more advanced world. But it feels like there's a lot of skepticism coming up. But, we're so influenced, we're so algorithmized, if that's
Mhm.
a word, like where everything that we talk about gets put in front of us later from the microphones that are listening, so it's like we're up against such a hard thing to be up against.
Mhm.
But it's like the brain science, the dopamine hit that these companies know we get just from buying something.
Mhm.
There's so many different things at play. We should have a brain researcher on and talk about this consumerism. But I think that the professional organizing industry, yeah, some of it definitely glamorizes overconsumption.
Mhm.
A lot of the most popular accounts on Instagram connected to organizing have some very, very luxury market, very, very beautiful pantries, likely a house staff that helps manage
Mhm.
that pantry, likely somebody who's helping make the food from it.
Mhm.
But I think what we try to do and what we love, a lot of the organizers day to day that isn't glamorous is just going through someone's kitchen with them being like, "Do you need all this? Like, do you want, what would be the optimal amount? What's the right amount for your home for your cooking habits?"
Mhm.
But then you add in like the quick fix of DoorDash, which I'm a huge user of, which is problematic in my own life, but so we might have everything that it takes to make something we love, but it's still easier to just DoorDash a meal.
Mhm.
And so then the thing that we have goes to waste even more.
Yeah.
I think toiletries.
Yeah. Mhm. Especially skincare products. Like there's so many different trends that happen so quickly with skincare products and half the time it's just one of those kind of instant gratifications because I feel like everything is marketed like, "Oh, this is going to make your life better. This is going to make your skin better." So, you buy it with the hope that it's going to actually do that, get that instant gratification when it comes and then you're like, "Oh, my life is going to be great now."
I've thought that we could have an add-on offering to bring like a skin specialist. We actually have a client who does skin work as well that I've said, I should bring you in a bathroom. And after we've sorted, have you do a consultation with the client for what their skin actually needs. Because you're getting marketed things that you might not need that might be drying out your skin
Yep.
that's not actually serving you, but it's so marketed that it would. So
Yep.
we see all these same products over and over again. And I think being in people's houses and seeing the same thing over and over again and the same things not getting used over
Mhm.
and over again has made my skincare is so much simpler than it ever has been. My habits are so much simpler because I think we've added so much complexity
Yeah.
to the day that isn't serving people. I mean, you ask a lot of elderly women who have beautiful skin what they use. It's like Olay,
Mhm.
like a $7 bottle. I was at Mary's, senior living community. And there's this woman with this beautiful, what's the one that's You're Worth It? L'Oreal?
Um,
L'Oreal.
I
Because you're
think
worth it.
L'Oreal.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
She was like, I use L'Oreal. I'm worth it. And it was like so cute. She had the best skin. And it's like, Uh, there were that's $10, drugstore, her
Yeah.
whole life, she looks amazing. So I think, all of it, yes, there are, you've been an esthetician, so
Mhm.
there are good things with some of these very fancy products.
Yeah.
But what I think we try to do for people, is just allow a moment of, do I need this?
Mhm.
Wow, I've really got too much.
Mhm.
And I think what we feel is that we get people who are really having a moment of feeling like, I'm so overwhelmed by all of this stuff
Mhm.
and I don't need it all and it's getting in my way and it's making my life more difficult, and I just want to simplify.
Mhm.
That's what I think people hire professional organizers for. What do you think are the
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd also say too, I feel like some people need that like neutral party to come in and be like, "Hey, it's okay to not keep all this stuff that you don't need."
100%? I think there's the overwhelm, there's the neutral party to go through it, to evaluate it. I
Mhm.
think there's the expertise to know what to leave behind as far as product goes.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say a lot of times when we go into houses, we'll see kind of a stack of organizing products that people will randomly buy thinking it'll work for them, not taking into consideration one, their lifestyle, and also two, like the space that they actually have.
And that to me gets into even the dopamine hit and exactly
Mhm.
what we're talking about, whether it's, a water bottle, a skincare, any item, the organizing products are just the same
Mhm.
because it's like, if
Oh,
I
this is
just
gonna
buy this, the home edit. I worked at the at the Container Store the week that the home edit came out. So the home edit is these two gals out of Nashville created a beautiful business. One of their husbands is a professional photographer, so all of their photos are just amazing. They put everything in a rainbow. They're very good on Instagram, and they blew up. Just took off. Then they film a Netflix series that comes out like right during COVID. So now you got everybody at home
Mhm.
looking around at their stuff. They go to Netflix and they see, oh my God, my life can look like that. Like, and it's
Mhm.
on the home edit. Then mid 2020. So as soon as the world opens back up and you can go back to the Container Store and actually start organizing your house that you've been,
Stuck in.
suffocated in. Yeah. You're like, this is the fix. And I would see people come in like literally wanting to replicate the plan that they saw on TV without any idea of dimensions of their shelves,
Mm.
without any idea of like if that actually worked or not. It was just, I saw it on TV. This is what they used. I'm going to buy that exact thing.
Yep.
Half the time that might work great, no
Mhm.
problem. But half the time you need more of
Mhm.
what you bought. You actually had 4 extra inches on every shelf and you just completely, lost that square inches, you know,
Just not
footage, like lost
utilizing your
that
space.
space. Yeah. And so it's like having a professional organizer. We come in with our tape measure first. My consultation pictures are not just like, oh, this is the room and this is the drawer. It's with a tape measure in the drawer, knowing this is a 14-inch depth drawer. It's, 8 inches high, so I can get the bins that can go that high instead of just smaller ones. We're really coming in being like, how can we design a solution that works for you and not just bringing one product or something that we use every time.
Mhm.
There's things that we love and we use over and over, but it's a very custom product solution
Yep.
in addition to the physical support. So I think that, what I love about our industry is, and we've talked about it many times and we've brought many clients on to talk about it, but the actual end result of
Mhm.
what we do for people, which is help them go through everything in their home, help them make sense of it, help them make sure that what gets left behind feels really good. And when we go back to people's houses a couple years later, a few years later, a lot of times it's just sizes changed, kids grew, they aged out of what they were interested in, so it's an obvious what goes,
Mhm.
but it's not like the system we left behind didn't work and we're overhauling that. It's the easiest days for us when we go back a couple years later
Mhm.
because we're bringing minimal product. We're just putting things back together in what we already started.
Yep.
But you can see that the habits that led us to being hired have also changed
Mhm.
because people were able to have that intervention moment and be like, we're not letting it get that way again. We're not, we invested, we overbought on the product, on the stuff before. We put this investment of time and kind of having to deal with it. We went through this process and then you can see on the other side of it, they are more conscious consumers.
Mhm.
So that to me is like the biggest win when we can help people really not have that overwhelm move forward. We
Mhm.
can acknowledge it, we were where we were. Here we are. We're going in a new direction. When we come back, it will always feel like that's the biggest moment of pride for me is when we go back and
Yeah.
it's better.
Hmm.
Well, and you've created a space for every single item that they have so they can always see how much they have, so then they may save a lot of money in the long run by knowing what they have.
I think that the spending changes enormously when we're finished. I
Hmm.
think people feel excited to shop their own closets, and we talk like that too. We say things while we're on the job of now you can shop your own closet.
Yep.
Now you can shop your own pantry. Now you know what toiletries you have and you don't need to go back to the store and you can actually have fun going to your own closet and feel that dopamine hit. I mean, you told me about your feeling of going to a drawer and you didn't realize it stressed you out till after you went to it and it didn't stress you out.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I would just open it and be like, "Ah, I can't find anything, just forget about it." And then once I got it more organized and then I'm like, "Oh, I don't have to have that stressed out feeling anymore."
I think that's what we do for people. And so then, but that's like, I just put this effort into curating what's in my home and into making sure it's the right amount of stuff and that I want everything that I want. It's very hard to go to a store afterward and like a week later, a month later, I think be like, I'm going to get this thing that the organizer I would have gotten rid of in front of the organizer.
Yeah.
It's like you had that confrontation with yourself and with your spending and with your fixes, and you're like, I don't want to live that way anymore. And so hopefully we've done enough work that was not just around the prettiness of it, but really the story behind your stuff and your relationship to it so that what we leave behind is a better relationship with your home with the
Mhm.
stuff and then your family's flowing better and so then every time you carry in those bags if there's space for it or not and you don't want to overstuff that bin like oh we have too many snacks
Mhm.
this is our moment. So I think that we can certainly stand behind what we do in people's houses and helping them get there, but something that we'll talk about, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about how we ethically redistribute stuff when we leave people's house. Because what we don't talk about much in the organizing industry, I think, is what happens after. And from a standpoint of, living in a world with overconsumption, living in a world with um, the pressure on the planet that we're putting from this overconsumption in so many different ways. I think it's an interesting time that this industry that we're in can actually help take the abundance from a home that no longer needs these things, the excess from over here, and help community members who could use that resource, and making sure that what we do to is not just brought to one thrift store and then half of that is now trash and it's not just focused on trash. Like we feel this connection to our clients to make sure that what we leave in their home is a really well done job. But then I think that we're very much driven by making sure that what we take away also has intention
Mhm.
and how we take that away. So let's talk about that when we get right back. We'll take a quick break. This is Sorting Through Life on AM 950. All right, welcome back to Sorting Through Life. This is Colleen Waterston, owner of Space by Space Organizing. And I'm here with Alicia, who goes into almost every home that I go into with our business. And then Tiffany, who gets the pictures and videos after and gets to put it all together so that we can share what we do with the world. So, Tiffany, you're kind of guiding this conversation a little bit, but we talked about what we do with the stuff that we leave in someone's house, but there's a lot that gets taken out.
Mhm.
And really, they say, like, you can't organize a cluttered space, and decluttering is the first step for sure. And just kind of having an inventory of what you own. But there's a lot of stuff that comes out of the house from the organizing process.
Yeah, so let's just talk about where does the stuff go after it? What's the ethical responsibility of decluttering?
The ethical responsibility. I would say a lot of organizers, I think they do one drop off to a place, on the way home between the client and the house, their own home, and then they just it's like everything's put into big bags. The bags get dropped off, and in my perspective is that about half of that stuff that we would take out of someone's home, if dropped off to one location, becomes trash. It's like a thrift store can only sell they get such a high volume, of stuff dropped off, so it's like, that might not have they don't have the shelf space for it or something. So, for us with Space by Space, and, I haven't done an inventory of every single organizer and where they go. I just can tell you that from what we do is we do our best when things leave the house to try to get them to a place that will have a next use
Mhm.
or a proper disposal. So a lot of things, electronics, will take hazardous waste and make sure that that goes to the right.
Mhm.
So recently, I could just speak to that. There's a lot of cords.
Yes.
Everybody has a bin of cords that they might need one day. And I do feel bad. Like, I'm sure there are some times that the week after you throw away your bin of cords, somebody finds, one thing that needed that one cord and shoot. But I'd say more often than not,
Yeah.
it's the bin of cords that are not needed.
Yeah.
So with that, like there's certain things you can throw away in the trash, and there's certain things that you can bring to a hazardous waste site. We in the Twin Cities have one. It's called Ramsey County Environmental Center. It's in Roseville, and it serves the 7 counties in the area. And so even for myself, Hennepin County, I went there the other day and was able to get rid of some sharps they have. They work in connection with Repowered, which is this really great organization that you can bring things to for electronics recycling. But if you have electronics recycling and other things, you can go to this Ramsey County Environmental Center. There's we go to Sharing and Caring Hands a
Mhm.
lot for things. That's a homeless community center, and so things are going direct. We do our best if it's something of use that can go direct to a person to
Mhm.
bring something to an organization that serves those people and gives our items directly to them. Bridging does great with household items. And we've been going to Prop Shop recently. So there's a lot of thrift stores that have that mission attached to it, where it's, not only is it nice that people can shop for low value, get a deal on an item, but also the profit that's made is going directly back into a really good mission.
Yeah.
And so I think that you can find those everywhere. We have ones that are closest to our warehouse, closest to our clients, closest to my house is kind of where I frequent. But there's so many places. So Reuse Minnesota, we had Emily Barker on here, and Emily and I did a presentation at a local community center about where things can go so that you can feel good, because there's actually a lot of people who will take either the value of an item through reselling it or the valuable aspects of the technology. There's different ways that you can feel good about decluttering. Someone once said, his wife didn't want to declutter because she was worried that everything would just end up in a landfill. And he
Mhm.
said, well, I tell her I'm worried our house is becoming the landfill. So it's like, I get that, where it's like, there's this shoot, if we just get rid of everything, all we're doing is just throwing it away. I feel bad about that. But I think that what we've done is, and there's just so many different resources out there in lists that are online, and we direct people to them on our website and in our different social media, thanks to you, Tiffany. And we want to do that more and more, where it's just celebrating. This doesn't have to make you feel bad for it's not all trash.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I appreciated when I first started working for you is when we would take stuff away, you would mention like, "Oh, I'm going to this place, and this place." So you're not just bringing it to a thrift store that sells things for profit. It's like getting things back into the community to help people.
And sometimes that means we do like a post sort, or we've got to hang on to something. I'll kind of hang on to things until I get a critical mass to make it worth driving across town
Mhm.
to do that donation drive, the drive for it. Or my dad has been one of the biggest drivers of donations, especially the first couple years of doing this. I mean, he was constantly coming and picking up what I had in my garage. Okay, this goes here, this goes here. And not everybody has time for that or the resource for that. But I think that, when you hire Space by Space organizing, we make sure that we do our best to give something an extended life. But I think that when you declutter, you can feel good about you can do a little bit of research to make sure that something goes to a next use.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, and you talked about electronics. So what are some other things, like maybe clothing or books? What are some other places that you end up taking things to from homes?
We did a big book,
Yeah.
a book
Mhm.
client recently where we just spent kind of days going through a
Yeah.
very extensive decades and decades of books. And I told him I will do my best to make these books stay in circulation if they should.
Mhm.
There were some that were like health trends of
Oh, yeah.
2005 and certain textbooks still have value, but many textbooks have aged out. The information's not as relevant, and
Mhm.
so some of that just was waste or recycling. We just that was just something we had to make the call for. But we did find there's a lot of resellers online, and there's a World of Books is one of the biggest online resellers, and they have an app that you can just scan barcode by barcode. And we were able to recover some costs for him from the books. We learned through that. I think
Yeah.
that was kind of a learning client for us because we'd never had that many books. So usually the books just go to a thrift store
Mhm.
or a place that has the social services if they're books that are relevant. But I'm not going to impose on sharing and carrying hands textbooks from the 80s. That's one thing too. Like when you're donating, I mean, I have done probably more loads of laundry and dishes for clients before I donate something than most people would. But it's a value I have. I make the
Mhm.
time for it. I kind of get a kick out of it. But I also know that in the condition something might be taken out of the house, it's not in an appropriate condition to donate.
Mhm.
So when someone hires us, like we have a project management fee connected to our rate. And that's kind of like we don't charge you then for the shopping. We don't charge you for the, for dumping, for certain extra things so that we can just based on the work that we've done in your house, it comes out to a pretty fair amount of all the work we're doing outside of your house to honor the work that we're doing in your house, whether that's the planning and the prepping and making sure that everybody when they walk in the door is ready to go and we're not wasting time in your house wrapping our heads around what we're doing, but also all the product that we bring, all of the envisioning and planning. And so, like, all the shopping that's done. But then when we leave, it's the returning if it's the product, it's taking things to proper donation, it's to proper recycling and all of that stuff on our client behalf. And so that feels good and fair. But I kind of lost my train if I'm honest. But I'm
Well, I imagine there's a lot of clothing too. Like what's some good
Yeah.
where do you like to bring that?
Okay, so yeah, so when I do people's dishes and when I wash people's clothes, I feel that that's my time off the clock is, covered. We've given them that we're going to do our best for you and for
Mhm.
your stuff. There's a lot of people who have dogs with a ton of hair. And so to me it's not appropriate to bring all your dog hair to donate your clothes with. Like
Mhm.
it's just nice to donate the clothes. So I will take that on and make sure that I wash their clothes before it goes. But so with that, like we do love a sharing and caring hands. Our prop shop has, all of the, I think it's men's and kids clothes they go direct to their social services programs, so you can find outlets and, Reuse Minnesota has a great directory. I know Hennepin County and the different counties have, go on to your county website and look for these lists. And they've got these great lists. And because of AI and the ability to kind of gather data better, there's more and more lists coming together that are reliable and relevant around where to donate your clothes that you can feel good.
Mhm.
Also, there's consignment shops. Like there's I think it's Cake Plus and is plus size clothes and you can get some money back for it. It serves this really um great shop,
Mhm.
there's vintage shops, there's different reselling options too, in the community that can feel really good. So I think, kind of establishing those routines as part of your decluttering can be part of the fun, finding the people. And then when you go in, I mean, it's not that many people that run these stores. You start to know who you're talking to and seeing the same people every time you're going to, bring another batch. So there's lots of different options. We're working on always making better resources ourselves to be able to show people where we like to go. But, knowing that people might be listening to this out of Minnesota too, it's just Googling more efficiently, asking like, where can I bring my clothes that go direct to a person who needs them? And maybe it's like dress clothes, or maybe it's, baby clothes, and you're going to a women's shelter. There's different places that you can take things and have that different feeling of your own dopamine rush of that you did something good today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just think that a lot of people are like, oh, I feel so good. I dropped this all off to donate. It's like, where you went, half of that is now trash, just because of the volume of stuff that they get.
That's what it's hard to know, and especially, like, when you're trying to evaluate the condition of things, I don't know if you guys have a method for that. Do things have to be, like, new kind of to be accepted at a lot of those places, or
I feel like it depends on where it's being donated. Like, obviously, nothing super damaged, no like rips, tears, staining on clothes and stuff. But yeah, it kind of depends on where it's being dropped off.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's like a consignment, they're going to tell you that we don't want these things.
because they're really picky at those kind of
Mm-hmm.
places. So I didn't know if a lot of those sharing and carrying hands, like you mentioned and stuff, if they
Well, and that's where I think a lot of people dump a lot of trash on some of these nonprofits. And so, my charge to people there would be we were in a home recently, and her thought was, would I serve this to a friend? For something to be kept, and I think that also when you're thinking of, and bridging says, we want your home goods items that you would give to a friend. We don't want the stuff that you think might have one more year in it, one more go in it.
Yeah.
There is that idea of, if you're bringing something and you're imposing it on a social service provider, think about the person shopping. So in Bridging's case, they have where people can go and actually shop their warehouses, and they get certain allotments for what they can have for the different home goods items. Think about that person's experience. They're going in there and they get to shop with that dignity. There's no cost attached. There's a long wait list because there's so many people who need these things. It's like, do you want somebody to get something that looks so used, or is it nice to be able to say, look at these dishes that you're getting? Like, you're also wanting, just think about that. Like, it's kind of the golden rule: treat other people like you would want to be treated. Look at an item: would I want to use this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
does this actually have a next life? And I think, for us, that's where, like, we do have some access for waste that not every organizer has, so we're able to help people take their waste, but waste is expensive. And sometimes that's just the cost that you have to, when you have a lot of waste, you might have to pay a dumping fee, or the junk people's pickup fees, and it just costs because the cost of getting rid of stuff. Emily Barker says, she's the executive director for you. She's like, if you're going to a place that doesn't charge for some of the electronics that are attached to fees, she's like, make sure that that's actually a legit place, because they might not be disposing of something properly, because there is work to, get the things that shouldn't be going into our landfills or shouldn't be going into our environment in any way. And also, like, putting your electronics in the regular trash, that can cause a dumpster fire in the trash dumpster while a person is driving that car. And so you hear that happen too. So it's like kind of a laziness or a desire to save a few bucks.
Mm-hmm.
You're just punting the problem down the line. And I think that's where, the ethical idea of it is like, we're going to do our best not only to capture value and distribute that value to a next person, but also if something is trash, we are not going to sit there and make you feel good about it that you think it's not. But we might do a post sort, and some of that stuff becomes trash after it leaves your house.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to do our best to make sure that what does go into the community is worthwhile. It's just a lot of stuff, but it does get into, when we are probably less big spenders and shoppers because we've thrown away so much on our own halves and other behalves,
Oh, yeah.
And so you really, after you see all that waste, you can't help but kind of see your spending a little bit differently, see your intake a little bit differently. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and kind of wrap this up with a bow. Maybe talk about a few other things and call it a day. This is Sorting Through Life with Colleen Waterston. All right, welcome back to Sorting Through Life with Colleen Waterston on AM 950. And we are talking about all things space by space organizing. And we are professional organizers. I have Alicia here who comes into all the different houses with me, and Tiffany here who sees the pictures and videos from all the different houses. And we've talked a lot about what we left behind, what we leave behind in people's houses, and how we take things out. So, Tiffany, you've got another lineup of topics for us here.
Yeah, we talked a lot about donating. So let's talk about how reselling fits into your process.
Okay, so reselling. Reselling, we love. And it's an interesting topic because I think that it's like the circular economy, that things would have another life.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fun about reselling, so in the last segment we kind of talked about some of the consignment options out there. So consignment is when someone resells something on your own behalf. So it's you take it to a store and then you kind of profit share. Maybe they give you cash right on site. Maybe they give you credit. So we've had Christelle of Tyson Escobar here of Eco Chico and Solaware, which is consignment in West St. Paul, two great shops, one's for kids and one's for adults. And they've got a great like credit option that works in their store, and it's super smart. It helps get people back in the store, but all of your items get valued. So you get value for what you bring in. And that's really fun for people, because it's a different way to shop. And it's a way to bring what you don't want anymore. You've taken, 10 pictures in the same top. Maybe you're ready for something else. Okay, let me put that back into the circular economy.
Mm-hmm.
But we've kind of played with a lot of resale and with clients. We had Warren here who Alicia and I really learned like estate selling and in-person sales through. And we'd host these estate sales and people would kind of be like, oh, these are a lot of money. And I'm like, what I realized about hosting a sale is about half the people, if not more, that come are resellers. And so they're coming and hoping you price things wrong so that they can go make more money. And I would say, I also have the internet. And so we can make him more money item by item on certain items. But there's certain things where you would never spend the time to put online. And that's where a garage sale and an estate sale is kind of like an all at once has to go.
Mm-hmm.
And different sales have different, and people know different companies. Like people would be like, oh, these companies, every record's $5. These companies, it's all priced separate. People have their different selling strategies. But we've had a lot of luck on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you all price your items? Did you say you used an app or use Google Lens or?
I would always usually reverse Google image search or kind of search on Facebook if there was something very similar, and then just kind of also take into consideration the condition of the item. Like if it's brand new, you want to price it a little bit higher. If it has some wear and tear, maybe not so much at a higher price.
And, hosting yourself a sale is a great way to come to terms with the fact that not all your stuff does have value and that people don't want to buy it. eBay is something that you have to be careful with because anytime you Google Lens is everybody's friend. So for anybody that doesn't know this, you go to Google on your phone and there's the little photo, like the camera in the corner. You click on that and you can either upload a photo or take one right there, and it populates a Google search for that image. I don't know when this was invented, but I'm all for technological advancements thanks to that feature alone. I mean, it has made our lives so much easier to be able to look something up and see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard that Google gives a higher inflated idea of what the value is of something. Or you might see, so on eBay, there's a way to search for what's actually been purchased versus what is just listed. Because the resale value is what someone's willing to pay you for it.
Right.
And so
that's where people get confused, I think.
People will see something like, oh, they've got this online for $100. And it's like, well, let's go to search. And Alicia found this, where are the searches of what is it has been bought?
Yep. Yeah, you can. It's like a filter you can apply, sort by items that have previously been sold. And the nice thing too is it gives you a date of when the item was sold. So you can reference that like, oh, this was sold a month ago at this price, or this was sold a year ago at this price, and just kind of go from there.
And I would say that our clients, you know, a lot of our clients don't really care what happens to the stuff that leave their house because they are so focused and excited about what stays in their house
Mhm.
and the order that we brought to it. And when you think of like the cost benefit, like sometimes there might be like, oh, that's worth something, right? And I'm like, okay, so by the time you pay us to put this online, it's not. You know, like we have to recover the cost for us, you know, taking the pictures. And we've learned a lot and we've
Yeah.
kind of grappled with how to take advantage of some of these reselling sites and offer them to our clients when the situation makes sense for both of us.
Mhm.
Because we're not a reselling business, we're a home organizing business. But through the home organizing process and decluttering, a lot of things of value do leave, a lot of things of not much value leave.
Mhm.
And also a lot of we kind of have to have that moment with people like you're not going to make $100 off of this thing. You might make 20,
Mhm.
you know. And so we've gotten creative. Sometimes we'll do it for a client while they're in their house on their own account and we'll take the photos, we'll make the listing, and it actually is worth the time that we're doing it
Mhm.
to get those things out of their house, but now it's on them to manage.
Yep.
But we've definitely incorporated and for some things profit share when we do take it out of people's houses, but that's got to be a pretty high value to make it worth us taking on, us, you know, us holding space for it because
Mhm.
sometimes things sell like in 3 minutes and sometimes things sell in 3 months. And so also kind of knowing that. But we've got a lot, we've done a lot of work and we're going to launch a course. If you're interested, message us. Message me, Colleen at spacebyspaceorganizing.com. If you're interested in learning more about reselling, because that will motivate us to finish our class that we've been working on to help people resell because there's so much that goes into it. You know, the way to list things, the way to take pictures, how to measure things, how to communicate with buyers, which buyers to take seriously, which ones not to, you know, various language to use in the messaging. You know, I have 300 and I think 65 five-star reviews on Facebook Marketplace. It is a lot of work. This is not like there are sometimes I'm like, I worked very hard for $2. And then there are sometimes that I didn't work that hard for 200, you
Mhm.
know, but you have to kind of find your flow and find your boundaries within that. But anyway, we are almost out of time here. So I hope that this has inspired you to think a little bit more about the things that are in your house, the life and the way you would like your stuff to surround you. And as you get rid of things that no longer serve you, could they serve someone else better? And how best can you bring those items into the world? And where can you drive them to? How can you resell them? We are here for a resource, spacebyspaceorganizing.com. This is Sorting Through Life with Colleen Waterston. And we are on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Thanks for listening, and thanks to you two gals for being here.